Good afternoon, students. This is Dr. Morgan Phenix coming to you from Stanley, Virginia. It's a pretty windy, cold, blustery Sunday afternoon. Great day to begin on the week 4 assignments. And you've got a great assignment to do this week, the case study number 1. Let's get right to it, okay? And we'll come back to some other things at the end here. Case study number 1, and you'll have a case study number 2 in week 7. These are worth 100 points each, so please do get them right. And I'm giving you some strong recommendations that will gain you points, guaranteed, or at least will save you from losing points. And I'll go through that as we get there. Okay, here we go. Case study number 1 is about Serge Ramanic. It's about a young Serbian student, elementary school student, arriving in the States by way of Canada and France and some other places. Doesn't speak any English at all, really. And he is assessed and he is placed in a learning disabled class. Alrighty, and so the question here is entirely about whether he was assessed properly and adequately, and whether he was placed properly in an LD class, learning disabled class. Okay, this is not a general essay study in ELL, in language issues, or in special education issues. All right, so get that out of your system right away. There are really clear case study instructions, and there's also a rubric if you want to look at that. Okay, and the rubric is in this course I'm finding that students either miss the point totally or they do very well, and the rubric is after the fact. But here we go. The only source document that you have to use is the scenario that's in reading and study materials, okay, and it's a 2-page scenario about Serge Ramanic, and even says right here, is this child mislabeled? Alrighty, that's the case. Serge Ramanic, 2 pages, read it, okay? It's really simple. On the 3rd page, there are a couple of questions that will frame your summary of the case. And more on that in a few moments. And the questions are, do you think Serge's skills were assessed adequately? Do you think he was correctly identified, learning disabled, and so on? And do you think special education placement was appropriate, and so on? There's a few questions there, and then there's a question about Mrs. Evans. I'll come back to her in a minute. Here's the assignment to gain the maximum points. It's in 3 parts. It's a summary, a 1-page, 1.5-page summary of the case, and the summary is just of this document. This is your only document. No references. Don't even refer to your experience in this field. You are a site administrator approaching the issue of Serge Ramanic. You've been asked to look into what's going on there in Mr. Sims' school, and has he dealt properly with Serge Ramanic? Okay, so first of all you have your summary of the case scenario from these 2 pages, double-spaced, 1.5 pages max, okay? And I would begin with a thesis statement that says, I believe that Serge Ramanic's skills and abilities were assessed properly and that he was placed properly. Or, I don't believe that he was assessed properly and I think that his placement was therefore not appropriate. Alrighty? That's part 1. Part 2 of this assignment is a SWOT. Okay, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I think many of you know about this. Typically in the business world, it's done in a quadrant format. You have the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats, and you give 5 or 6 features of the case, not just about Serge Ramanic. Okay, it's not just Serge's strengths, Serge's weaknesses. And for example, you could say, well, Serge Ramanic doesn't speak any English. Is that a weakness? No, it's not a weakness, it's a fact. And actually that becomes an opportunity. Things you could do, potentialities that maybe weren't used, and then threats, things that are going to really cause you a problem if you don't get them right. Okay, but I would like to almost demand that you not use the quadrant, but use the outline format. And most particularly, I would like to request most strongly that you not use an essay format. Do it in an outline format just like this, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'm going to give you one in a minute, so it's very clear what you're doing. And the idea here is that the less you write, the more of your creativity shows through. Okay, your ideas are very clear. If I ask for a list of 6 things and 1 word each, or 2 words each, you'll be spending a little bit more time thinking and a lot less time writing. Okay, so I would like it in this format. Most strongly. It's not in the grading rubric, so I can't require it. But I'm telling you, if you write an essay about this, if you write an essay about the SWOT, you are going to probably have 1 or 2 strengths, 1 or 2 weaknesses, 1 opportunity, and 1 threat. and I will mark down your points for not if you're a site administrator that only comes with that much in the way of thoughts of what's going on here, you're missing the boat. Okay, you're probably in the wrong business. And if you, let me tell you right up front, if you don't enjoy this assignment, looking at the scenario and crafting an attitude about it, okay, and then saying, gosh, here's what we could do in addition. Here are some opportunities that we have. Here's some things that we did wrong. If you don't have that attitude about it, you're probably going into the wrong business, because education is full of that. And as a principal or assistant principal or a department chair of some kind, you're going to have problems upon problems and upon problems. And if you don't find them exciting, you're in the wrong business as well. Okay, this is a great opportunity for you to stretch your imagination and your creativity. And the SWOT is one page, max one page. Okay, there's no reason for it to go over in another page. Alrighty, so you have a scenario summary, page and a half. You have a SWOT, one page, and then you have your case recommendations. Okay, as a site administrator, here are the things that I would do. Minimum of 5 or 6. Okay, or 4 or 5. 4 would be an absolute minimum. In this case, in Serge Ramanich's case, because there are so many things here that really need to be done in one way or another. Alrighty, and it says down here also, once again, that text weakens. If you write me and this is one page only. If you write me a one-page essay on what you should do there, you probably will only include 1 or 2 recommendations, actual recommendations. You'll really center in on 1 or 2 things, and then you'll write a beautiful flowery essay about that. Okay, where do you get your recommendations from? You get them from your SWOT. I would recommend you to do that. Okay, if you have strengths, I would enhance those. I would find some other things to do similar to those strengths. If you have some weaknesses, definitely you'd want to fix them, would you not? If you have a threat, you better do something to mitigate the possibility. And you have opportunities. That's the best place to get recommendations from, things that we didn't do. But here's what we could do. So let me give you one, just so you all have it, what we're looking for here, and the length and the length of your response. For example, a strength, and everyone gets this one, so I can give it to you. So you do include it. Okay, for a strength, there's a teacher named Mrs. Evans. You'll find out about her. Okay, and she's great because she's excited about her Serbian students. She's looked into their culture, their background, their language. She knows how to honor their diversity, how to honor their not how to accept it or try to understand it, but how to honor it. Okay, keep that in mind as you work in this in the field of diversity. Okay, so you put down Mrs. Evans' cultural sensitivity for Serbian students, something like that, or just Mrs. Evans. Mrs. Evans is a strength here because of her cultural sensitivity. Period. Okay, that's enough. That shows that you're onto it. You're onto that feature of this case. And once again, for weakness, don't put down that there's a weakness here that Serge doesn't speak any English. That's not a weakness. That's a fact, and that becomes one of your opportunities to deal with him. Okay, and then as a site administrator, for example, I would if let's use Mrs. Evans again. If Mrs. Evans is really excellent with regard to cultural sensitivity, wouldn't you want to maybe use her as a mentor or for people who are struggling with these Serbian students in our school? Okay, you got an older teacher there that just is bemoaning the fact that these Serbian kids are making life miserable. And you know what? They're the children that you have. So one of my recommendations would be that Ms. Evans would work with faculty who are struggling with this, or would do some professional development for the entire staff. Alrighty, I think that's it then. So you have a 3.5, maximum 4-page assignment here, maybe a 3-page assignment, a summary, a SWOT, outline please, and then a listing, an outline listing also of case recommendations. I've had people write beautiful essays about the recommendations with only one recommendation in it, and you don't get points for that. And this assignment is such a large assignment, I'm less likely to ask for resubmissions. I'm more likely just to grade you on it, and that can work against people who don't get this right. For those people who don't watch the video, you know what? Let me give you a little separate extra credit thing here. There are probably 2 or 3 students out of the 2 sections that are not watching these videos. So I should do one of these deals, where I'm really angry with the fact that there are people who aren't watching the videos. And let me tell you something, I expect everybody to be watching these videos. Well, you know what? The people who are not watching the videos aren't going to see that either. So why do you want to put the whole class through it? I had a great situation along that same line. I think this is worth telling you. My first job as an assistant principal in Milwaukee, I was called to a meeting of the 45 new assistant principals in the division. Okay, and it was run by a really wonderful lady who turned out to be my partner as an assistant principal in James Madison High School there. My first job in administration, I was loving it. Got there early, got there 15, 20 minutes early. The meeting started at 8:30. Okay, so 8:25, and there was about 40 of us there, and there were 45 people. There were supposed to be as a sign-in list. Okay, and then by 8:30 came, there was still missing 3 people or 2 people, something like that. And then another 5 minutes went. She wanted to wait because she wanted everybody to be there. And so the 2 people that hadn't showed up, and then so she finally blew up, and she let us have it. She said, "Let me tell you something." She said, "You know, this meeting was supposed to start at 8:30 sharp. I demand that people be here on time so we can get started. So we're in this we're all in this together, and so on and so on." So she kept on, and I you know, usually, this is how I got my jobs, I guess. I raised my hand and said, "You know, the people you want to talk to, they're going to be here in a little bit." So, and of course, right at that moment, the door opened, and some very, very cool dudes walked in, you know, with their coffee and with their little sandwich from McDonald's or whatever it was, and that was bad news. But you know, really, let's not share this stuff with the people who really have already earned this stuff. So, and that's extra lesson for extra credit. I think that's about it. I'd like to also add one thing. There's a feature of this course that has been added this term for all courses in the School of Education. It's the foundational principles of the Liberty University School of Education, the script. And at the beginning of each weekly announcement, I do put in a devotional. And this week it's on reflection. And I'd like to direct your attention to that. I like to add scripture to the announcement, so it's something that pertains to it, relevant. But in this case here, we are asked to use the foundational principles in a certain order. You're probably noticing it in your other classes as well. And I'm going to direct you to Daniel 9th chapter, 3rd and 4th verses about reflection, about praying, and about, you know, speaking with the Lord about things, and before we go into action, before we go into to deal with our case studies. All right. Likewise with the final projects, really quickly, I've looked at probably 8 or 9 or 10 of them, the part ones, and I do warn you that we got to be cautious about cliches. You know, a school where all students can succeed. That's not strategic at all. Okay, and as you go to apply for jobs and interview for jobs, make sure that you have strategic interventions in mind to solve the problem that may be brewing in that school district, why they're looking for a new principal or a new assistant principal, is because they need somebody that can solve the problems, and you need to have those strategic keys. And also make sure that there is a clear diversity issue in your final project. Alrighty, that's it for today. I want to show you one of my little ones here. This is a special needs dog named Gracie. She's got a real bad rear hip, and we carry her a lot of places. And you know, despite the little white snout there, she is only 3 years old, and it's going to be a tough road for her, I guess. But we'll carry her, you know, like we do so often. Thanks, folks. Any questions, shoot me an email or post it in the discussion board, Ask Dr. Phenix, so that everybody else can see it as well. And we'll see you next time, Lord willing. Bye-bye.